Welcome back, everybody. Turning now to some politics. For the first time in a national poll, the Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton is tied with a GOP presidential contender. A new Fox News poll shows that in a potential 2016 matchup, right now, former Florida Governor Jeb Bush is neck and neck with the former Secretary of State. Is this a sign of things to come, or do any of the other potential 2016 candidates have a chance this early on to shake things up? Joining us now for a fair and balanced debate, Fox News contributor Angela McGlowan and radio show host Richard Fowler. Welcome to the both of you on this holiday weekend. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So it's early, and a lot of these early polls, people will say, don't mean much, but still, they're a barometer to kind of sense where the electorate is, you know, what their thoughts are, what the pulse is, Rich. But at the same time, you know, we've been talking about Hillary Clinton and what kind of a matchup she could be facing on the Republican side, and Jeb Bush coming out early.
Yeah, he is coming out early, and I think a lot of folks are sort of on the right are sort of, you know, raising their eyebrow to this one. I mean, Glenn Beck has come out and said the Hillary-Bush combination is bad news, bad for business, and part of the problem with this country, because we are not a country of, you know, monarchies. We're a country that is indeed a democracy. So I think that's part of the problem, but I think beyond that, I think it's just way too early to tell, Uma, who the real nominee is going to be. It's just people are still trying to, you know, find fun for Easter eggs.
Does the country want a dynasty to take over?
They don't want a dynasty to take over, but I think they want a proven person that will actually lead this country back to prosperity. And the difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, I believe, unless Biden throws his hat in the ring, Hillary is a sure-win. As for the Republican Party, a lot of times we have diversity that's actually a detriment instead of something positive in the party. Ted Cruz just came out with his ad promoting his Christianity. That's fine. But to win the actual presidency, you need to be all things to all people.
Yes, in that ad, there were no issues brought up per se. He, strategically unveiled it on this holiday weekend to reinforce, cement to the base, the Christian base, that he's one of them and that he believes in their core values.
Well, I agree with Angela on this point that, it's way too early to tell. But beyond that point, a healthy primary is a good thing, Uma, but in this case, you know, it might be too healthy for its own good, right? I mean, having such a crowded field can really, really wreak havoc for the Republican Party as we get closer and closer to 2016. But beyond that, I got to give Ted Cruz credit, and I rarely ever give Ted Cruz credit.
No, right.
But I give Ted Cruz credit for being the first person to announce that he's running, and instead of running the super PAC, dark money campaign, he says, you know what? I want this campaign to be about the issue, so I'm going to announce my candidacy, and I'm going to raise money from grassroots supporters. And that is a big deal. Because I'm a grassroots guy.
What I hope doesn't happen, if you remember in 2012, Republicans actually destroyed themselves and gave Democrats food for fodder when Newt Gingrich went after Mitt Romney.
That's a real point.
What I want is a robust debate to show the diversity of the party, and look at the diversity.
But when you have a lot of candidates like that, it's really easy to fall into that trap where they are going to try to gang up on one or two of the front runners. I think that's what's, you know, inevitable. That's going to happen.
It's easy to fall in that trap, but let's look at our diversity. You have Ben Carson, black. You have Carly Fiorina, who more than likely will announce a female, and then Rubio, Hispanic. So I think it shows that the party is a big tent party. I just hope we keep it above board in dealing with the diversity and policy issues.
But as for Hillary, the fact that she continues to be dogged by the situation, her time at the Secretary of State, and the fact that she continues to have lots of questions swirling around her about those erased and deleted emails, it's going to be an issue whether she likes it or not, and whether the Democrats like it or not, because the Republicans are not going to let it go, and that investigation is going to continue. So given that, do you think Democrats are going to beg for another alternative?
Well, I don't know. I think it's really too early to tell. But here's the thing, and this is the good news for the Democratic Party and the Hillary Clinton camp, is that the Republicans are good for driving a car until the wheels fall off. And in this situation, they're going to drive this email car until the wheels fall off, like they did with Benghazi and everything else. And that is really good for Hillary because she's going to have a chance to talk about ideals. And as the Republicans have a slugfest of a primary, as we saw in 2012, it's going to allow Hillary to sort of rise above the fray and sort of talk about the kitchen table issues, which is what this election is going to be about.
You and I both know when a candidate has to redefine themselves and is on the defense, which she already is, she's going to have to answer.
Well, she's not a candidate yet,
she's going to, you know, she's going to be. Come on, Rich, come on now. She's already put her shadow team together.
That she's not going to be a candidate.
Yeah.
No, I think that we have to wait for her to announce. Just like we have to wait for Jeb Bush to announce. So, you know,
well, Jeb's already raising money, and Hillary has her shadow task force in hand.
I mean, is there any thought from the Democrats at this point that she may not be a candidate?
Well, I think
that she may decide to back off?
Listen, I'm a big believer in healthy primaries, like I said before, and I think we'll have to wait to see what happens. Clearly, Martin O'Malley's in the race. He's been a couple of times. He's been to Iowa. We think that Jim Webb is in the race. We're still questionable on Elizabeth Warren, but I think healthy primaries are always good things when it comes to creating new ideals and ways to, aspire Americans to do the right thing.
If Elizabeth Warren and Biden throw their hat in the ring, Hillary can hang it up. That's your division in your party right there.
You said that's a division because that will split the party in a big way.
It will. And plus, too, Hillary has a lot to run against, and that is her record as senator and as Secretary of State.
I mean, at one point, does it become damaging if she continues to have to answer questions about this every time she goes on the road and taking questions from reporters? Because inevitably, if this thing remains an open issue, it's going to come up. And how is that going to distract from the campaign when you want to talk about issues?
Oh, I don't think it really does come up. I think it's an inside baseball it's an inside baseball news story. We're talking about it here in Washington, and that's part of the problem. You go to places like Arkansas, you go to places like Alabama, you go to places like Miami, Florida. They're talking about how they're going to create jobs, how they're going to grow the economy, and they're going to continue talking about that. And that is where I think Democrats have a strong
suit. Power grab. They're talking about. They're also going to. It's going to raise questions about her judgment. It's going to raise questions about her tenure as Secretary of State and the fact that she set her own rules.
But those same questions apply to the two people that are hitting off the Republican primary.
But they weren't Secretary of State.
You have Jeb Bush, who has who has a family name that is sort of trounced in the bud. You have Scott Walker, who is this union-busting governor who has no appeal outside of Wisconsin, and they're also going to have to deal with that issue.
People died under her watch, and those 30-second
here we go.
commercials.
This is the car, and the wheels have fallen off.
You can try to out-filibuster me, but the fact is the fact is the fact.
The wheels have fallen off on Benghazi.
Under her watch, and she has to answer to it.
Listen, the truth of the matter here is this: the Benghazi issue the wheels have fallen off on it. Republicans know it. The Republican committee that they created came back and said there was no wrongdoing here.
Well, listen, this is going to go on. This is obviously something that's going to continue. We're going to keep talking about it. The investigation continues, of course, and I know we're going to be checking back with you often.
And there are Democrats on the commission too, by the way.
That's right. Okay.
Very well said.
Angela, having the last word. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.